Hi, I'm Larry Levin with livelovephilly.com and Coldwell Banker Preferred Real Estate, and I'm here to welcome you to this investment seminar on how to use your self-directed IRA to buy real estate, especially new construction. Tonight's program is sponsored by Camaplan, which is an IRA custodian, sponsored by Coldwell Banker Preferred and yours truly, Green Tree Construction and Approved Mortgage. I'm going to introduce Mike Dubato from Camaplan to talk a little bit about how self-directed IRAs work, and then I'll talk a little bit about the new construction rental market here in Philadelphia, and then we'll open it up to questions and answers. Mike?
Thank you, Larry. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me here. My name is Mike Dubato, and I'm with Camaplan. Basically, what we do at Camaplan is we are a self-directed IRA custodian. The IRS requires that in order to have an IRA, there needs to be a neutral third party to do all the tax reporting to both the clients and to the IRS. So basically, that's what we do. Our IRAs are no different than any other IRAs you'd have in any other company, Morgan Stanley, Merrill Lynch, Smith Barney. The only difference is we allow you to hold investments such as real estate and new construction in the IRA. It's very easy. We're going to come back a little bit later on and talk about some of the common types of properties you would hold. But for now, I'll turn it back over to Larry into the Q&A session.
Great, thanks.
Anything in particular you wanted me to talk about beforehand?
No, I think we're good.
Okay.
Let me get into some of the market statistics about real estate, what's selling in the way of new construction, how new construction can work as an investment, and anybody that has questions, just fire it away. We'll keep it to be an open, free-flowing discussion. So, new construction in Philadelphia is a very prominent product type in terms of the homes that are sold in Philadelphia. For the purpose of this discussion tonight, we're going to look at the greater Center City marketplace, which runs all the way into parts of South Philly and up into Fishtown. And then at the end of this presentation, I'll be talking about one of our new construction products that we're selling here at Coldwell Banker Preferred, and how that can work as an investment and what the returns look like on a product like that. So for 2014, there were 4,617 homes sold in total throughout the greater Center City area. Of those 4,617 homes, 446 were new construction. There was an additional 311 new construction homes rented in the greater Center City area. So there's a huge demand by renters for new construction homes. They don't have to worry about maintenance. They know the house is going to be in good shape, and they can just move right in. The average price of non-new construction homes is $326,850, but the average price of new construction homes is $522,500. So you already have, walking in the door, a great deal more equity in the home as an investor or buyer than with new construction than you do a standard home. The average monthly rental for a one-bedroom apartment in greater Center City can range anywhere from about $1,300 to about $1,900, but new construction homes rent for on average about $1,900, so at the high end of that rental market. So if you have a new construction home that you own as an investment property, you can count on a premium rent pretty much no matter where it's located in that greater Center City area we just showed you. And greater Center City again runs from the core of Center City, which most people traditionally think of as Vine Street to South Street, Delaware River to the Schuylkill River. Greater Center City includes some of the surrounding areas like Fishtown, Old Kensington, and on the south side of the city, Queen Village, Bella Vista, East Passyunk, and then we include University City as well. The new construction is taking place all over the city, but this ranks where new construction is taking place and where you might be looking at properties if you were to consider buying new construction as an investment. As you can see, Graduate Hospital in Upper Point Breeze, which is technically South Philadelphia, is where the most number of units sold in 2014. And second to that is Fishtown, which is 78 units sold last year and is just going through quite a boom right now. So if you're going to buy an investment property, you got to know who's your renter and who's going to potentially pay you this rent, and how are they going to be able to do it and afford it. So this is a profile of who's renting throughout the city. 29% are aged 18 to 34, and that's more than twice the average nationally. You have Gen X, which is ages 35 to 54. 23% of our population is that, of our rental population is that. And then you have some baby boomers, about 23% make up your rental market. On average, the household income is, 41% of the folks that are renting are making between $40,000 and $125,000 a year. So a pretty affluent, stable rental base that you can count on to be able to pay your rent on a regular basis. 40% make less than $40,000, so they probably wouldn't qualify to rent your units. But approximately 20% make more than $125,000 a year. Some of them have families. 62% of the households in the core part of Center City that I spoke about earlier are one-person households, and 47% of the households in extended Center City are one-person households. So you're not looking at large families occupying the home, which could lead to a great deal of wear and tear and maintenance issues. If you've got one person in the house, it's less likely that the house is going to get beat up over time and hopefully bode well for your investment on a long-term basis. 18% of the families do have children in the Center City area. And one important factor is transportation. More than 40% of the residents living in the greater Center City area work within the boundaries of the greater Center City area. And more importantly, 62% of them get to work without having a car, which I think is a really important factor because a lot of people look to buy in the city and think they need parking. And it's clearly not the case if almost 2/3 of the people can get to work in the city without a car. So you can look at new construction with parking or without and still probably get a very similar rate of rent, whether it has parking or not. The next slide shows how Philadelphia compares in terms of appreciation versus the U.S. as a whole. And it compares really favorably. So you're thinking about buying new construction as an investment. Well, how's it going to do in the future? In a year, 10 years, 30 years, even though you probably don't hold it that long, Philadelphia outperforms the U.S. On a 34-year time period, as well as on a 10-year time period, the 1-year time period as well, and it's slightly lagging on a quarter-by-quarter time period, but it's not lagging by much, and given the longer-term time periods, you see the appreciation will probably quickly catch up, if not outpace the national average. This slide shows where appreciation is greatest throughout the city. So the project I'm going to talk about earlier is in Kensington, and you can see over time, over a 34-year period, Kensington ranks, I believe, the 4th greatest in appreciation across the entire city, with South Philly being the #1 ranked in appreciation. But even over a 10-year and a 1-year period, you can see the appreciation is pretty strong. And if you can get year-over-year appreciation at about 4.3%, there's a high likelihood that you're going to be able to refinance out your initial investment in 5 to 6 years at the most. Philadelphia in general is considered to be a cool market in terms of overall appreciation. This is a citywide look, not just greater Center City, but the forecast for 2015 is that Philadelphia as a whole is going to experience an increase in sale price 3.4% between now and this time, 2016. So I wanted to show you one of the projects that we have on the market for sale now. As I said, it's in the Kensington area. A little overview of it is listed down here. And the way this spreadsheet works is the yellow shaded sections are your income and expenses. And then down here is your cash-on-cash return. So at a $349,000 purchase price, which gets you an 1,800 square foot house with 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, a 10-year tax abatement, and a roof deck, no parking on these, you expect an average monthly rent of $1,925 with a 20% down payment and a 4% interest rate, which would be represented for investors. You would be looking at an 18% cash-on-cash return. You'd have roughly $104,000 into the deal with a net operating income of $18,000 annually. And so again, that would represent an 18% cash-on-cash return which if you're looking to take money from your IRA, say $104,000, that's a pretty solid return for the risk that you'd be placing in this home. And Mike can talk a little bit more about how the money has to come into the IRA, how it goes out of the IRA, and I can email these slides to anybody that wants them so they can understand the dynamics of the investment in a little bit more detail. If you want any additional information following this presentation, we have all of our contact information along here, and you can feel free to contact us at any time. So Mike, why don't you talk a little bit more about how the money works when somebody wants to deploy an investment into say, a new construction townhome like this.
Okay, so let's use a hypothetical example that you have a 401k with an old employer, and you decided that you love real estate, it's an investment you're comfortable with, you're not as certain about the stock market, and it's something that you wanted to pursue. You'd basically come to us and we would establish you an IRA. From there, we would go contact the old administrator of the old 401k. We would initiate the process of moving the money from them to us. Once the funds are in your account at Camaplan, we then walk you through the closing process. You're not going to do anything differently than if you were purchasing this property on your own with your own personal funds. The only difference is, instead of you owning the physical property, your IRA is going to own it. So we'll walk you through the whole process. We're going to sign off on all the documentation as the custodian. You initial it as read and approved, and from there, it's that simple. Once the asset is then recorded in the account, the key thing to remember is the IRA owns the property for your benefit. You don't own it. So any of the expenses that are going to be associated with that property, whether they be taxes, water bills, any incidental costs, they must 100% come out of the IRA account. Likewise, any rental income that is generated from the property has to flow in its entirety back into the IRA as a return on investment.
Great. So why don't we open it up to questions if anybody has?
Yes.
Gene?
How does this work with city taxes on the income?
With taxes on
The income.
from the property?
Yeah.
With the IRA, it is going to be 100% tax deferred. So any of the investment income that is going to come into the account will not be taxed until you take a distribution off of that account in retirement. So all taxes are deferred.
Even if you sell the property?
If you sell the property, taxes are still deferred. Like all the income would have to come in from the property, any of the appreciation has to come back in as well. You sell the house, every dollar will funnel back into the account, and again, it will not be taxed. You can then take that money, you can buy an additional property, you can invest in anything you'd like, but it will never be taxed until retirement time.
Well, the reason I'm asking, we tried this. Apparently, City of Philadelphia is not set up for this type of income. They consider it a business. If you have a property in Philadelphia and sell it in Philadelphia, you have to pay income tax to the city. Not on the federal level, city.
Well, the difference with this is that it is housed in a qualified IRA. It's a retirement plan. You're still going to have to pay taxes on the property. That's a tax bill we would get. As far as selling it, though, you're okay as long as you purchase the property for an investment purpose. Now, there are certain situations in which you will be subjected to pay some tax in an IRA. For example, if you decide to go the route of financing the property and not buying the property in its entirety, you would have to get a non-recourse loan. What that means is that the lender cannot attach any personal liability to you. If for whatever reason they needed to take the property, that's all they get, and any of the assets that are held in the IRA, you're not personally liable. Now, if the property is 60% financed and the rent coming in is $1,000 a month, 600 of those dollars is money you're making off of money that's not yours. So there is some tax that's payable on that. It's called UBIT tax. And that will be the one scenario in when you're going to pay a tax with real estate in the IRA. But any of the portion of the real estate that you own, all of the profits generated from that are going to come in tax-free and tax deferred until retirement. Same as any other IRA. And that's an important distinction. The IRA that you would have with us versus an IRA anywhere else, from a tax standpoint, it's going to operate the exact same way. The only thing that differentiates us from the other companies out there is that we allow our clients to invest in anything they want, so long as it's not strictly prohibited. And that's a very short list. It comes down to collectibles and life insurance. So that's what we do. We aid you in the whole process, start to finish, from when you find the property to when you sell it.
What do you find the interest rates to be on the non-recourse loans?
You know, that's a little bit out of my sphere of knowledge. I could tell you they're going to be slightly higher. Anybody in the audience who's interested, I can get you a list of non-recourse lenders, but because they're not attaching personal liability to you, they're taking on more risk as a lender, and therefore the rates are going to be a little bit higher. But I would prefer not to get into specifics because I don't want to give any bad answers.
So, but from what you were saying, to his good question, is that as long as it's totally funded from your cash in your IRA, then the city is not able to tax that income when you sell the property?
The best of my knowledge, I can look into that more for you.
Yeah, Mike, because if you can find something in writing, because they don't.
Well, and that's another.
I personally have used my IRA to do direct lending for investors that are flipping houses.
Now, lending is different.
Yeah.
Saying if you buy property in Philadelphia and sell it, they consider it to be an income in Philadelphia.
And you use all cash from the IRA, no
Yes.
financing?
Well, they want their transfer tax, I would imagine.
He's saying income tax.
Income tax.
Income tax.
Okay.
Because you have to get a business privilege license for your IRA to do business in Philadelphia, buy and sell.
Is that true?
You have to get what?
A business privilege license to buy and sell with?
That
if
might
you're going
be-
to buy and sell with your
Might be
IRA?
the difference because you go through CAMA on this.
Yeah, to the best of my knowledge, I mean, and that again, we're getting into questions that would be really suited for my operations department. They're the ones who are going to walk people through all the deals. And these are all great questions that I can get you the answer. To the best of my knowledge, no, though.
Okay. Well,
You only-
we've got it recorded, so we can look into it. Yeah. Yeah.
That's very interesting, though.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, the city is looking under every sofa cushion they can. So.
Oh, they're
yeah.
finding it, too.
Did you have a question in the back? Okay.
Another caveat that's important to think about when using the IRA to purchase real estate is if you're doing it with the intention of personally rehabbing and flipping the property, now the IRS can start looking at that as you operating a business out of your IRA and trying to skirt business income taxes. So now you're back in a scenario like with using the non-recourse loan that you may owe tax. It's not prohibited. It's just that there may be a scenario in which you're going to have to pay taxes. And the key thing that's really important, if you're doing this, you're going to want to be working with an accountant who understands self-direction and utilizing an IRA to purchase real estate.
That's another problem. Find that account. None of them know what it is.
Yeah.
Do you have some that you
Yes, yes. In the Philly, Jersey area, there's one gentleman, you know, I won't particularly recommend anybody. I can give you a few names, but there are people who do both the legal end of it and the accounting all in one shop. They understand it. They work with a lot of our clients, and I could share their name with you.
Great.
Any other questions? Anything you could think of, Larry, that I might not have mentioned?
Is there any provision or obstacle if the project is not built yet? If it's not an existing.
Yeah, can you finance construction with the money from the IRA, or does the product have to be completed?
It doesn't, but you would just do that in the form of a lending scenario. So with the IRA, you could be investing in the property with a note. It could be secured. It could be unsecured. From our standpoint, it doesn't matter. As long as it's not prohibited, which again, pretty much nothing is prohibited, we're going to allow you to do it. We just need the documentation. So if you're lending, we need to record a note on the account. If you know,
Say you're buying the building, say that house right there.
Okay.
You're buying the one on the left, but it hasn't been started construction yet. Is the money from the IRA allowed to be used to fund the construction of the house?
has to be.
Has to be.
So if you buy that property and there's construction costs associated, the IRA must pay for any and all of the construction costs.
Right, I get that, but so they'd have to settle on the dirt and fund all the construction costs out of the IRA.
You can do it all. We've had clients who bought just the raw property from their built. The thing you're going to want to bear in mind, though, is if you own a construction company or have an interest in a construction company, that company cannot do any of the rehabbing. If you're owning a rental unit and a toilet goes and a tenant calls you and you know how to fix a toilet, you still got to call a plumber, because it is a prohibited transaction for you and your IRA to have any kind of business interaction with one another, because the IRS does not want to see the IRA getting any present current benefit from you, and likewise they don't want to see you getting a current benefit from the IRA. A key example of that is if you have a rental property at the beach, theoretically you are not supposed to be utilizing that property so much as 1 week out of the year, because that would be you getting a current benefit from something that's owned by your IRA.
So I think in the question I just asked, I think you would just close on the project the same way an end buyer would when it's completed. Yeah, I think that would be the easiest way to avoid the lending scenario where the IRA would have a note on top of what the builder's notes might already be.
Yeah, you can just go ahead and buy the property and then from there develop it.
Right, right.
I mean, but a lot of people who want to do those types of scenarios, though, are usually happen to be somewhere along the process, have a business relationship, so that's what you got to be very careful about. If you have an interest in a construction company or you yourself rehab properties, it's all going to have to be outsourced. And that's the key thing to remember.
That's where the issue came in.
The other part of it is if you're the buyer, if I'm using my IRA money to purchase that property and I'm putting 20% down, how does it work if another lender is coming in to provide the balance of the mortgage? The mortgage payments that have to be made each month have to come out of the IRA, right? Can go directly to the mortgage. Are you seeing any obstacles with lenders lending to the IRA at the outset of the project rather than the non-recourse scenario that you mentioned earlier?
Quite frankly, it really is only the non-recourse lenders,
non-recourse.
unless you're going to go a non-traditional route. So you can lend my IRA money. You could be my lender. We can secure it. We could leave it unsecured. It really doesn't matter. But a lot of the more traditional lenders, it's going to be a non-recourse loan, and the rates can be slightly affected.
Okay. Okay.
Anyone could lend to anyone, though.
Right.
Your IRA can lend to somebody. Somebody can lend your IRA money.
Can multiple IRAs partner up?
Yes. And while your IRA can't do business with you, you can personally buy half this property yourself for Larry, and then Larry's IRA can buy the other half. The key there, though, is any income that flows in, the rent's $1,000, it must be split up 500-500. It's got to follow the proportion of ownership, that ratio of ownership. Likewise, the expenses will work the exact same way. A roof goes, it's $8,000. It's going to be $4,000 from Larry, $4,000 from Larry's IRA.
But Larry's 50%, you can't put a normal mortgage on it. It still has to be a non-recourse mortgage?
That's something we should talk about on the side, because that gets very in-depth and tricky, and especially if you have multiple players that aren't yourself. One thing I will tell you that keeps it pretty simple, say it's a rental property and 50% is owned by you, 50% is owned by a friend of yours, it still doesn't mean you could ever utilize that property. You're still prohibited, and you're still prohibited from having any interaction with that property. Rehabbing doesn't mean just because you only own 50% that you can rehab 50%. You're still completely prohibited.
What if we're a multifamily property and there were duplex in the IRA, and so it's owned 50-50? Could one unit technically be owned and utilized by the individual, and the other unit owned by the IRA is rented out and not used by the individual or the IRA?
Depends how it's purchased.
Okay.
If the whole thing is purchased, no. If just because they're physically
Depends
attached
how you
doesn't
take
mean
title?
Exactly.
Okay.
It all depends on the titling.
Okay. So since some new people walked in, I just wanted to open it up again to questions and see if.
I think it'd probably be best if Michael gave his little intro about about
Sure.
CAMA.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Basically, what we do is we help people use their retirement money, so old 401k dollars, to invest in real estate. So if you have any interest in investing in new construction and you don't want to finance it fully just out of your own non-qualified money out of your pocket, you can always use existing IRA and 401k plans to either purchase the whole property or as a down payment and get some financing, or you can even partner with yourself or somebody else with the IRA just to make sure that we're doing everything we can to get you in the investment that's most appropriate for you.
Do you have a question, Serge? Oh, okay. And I had talked a little bit about how the construction and new home market is looking in Philadelphia, so I can share the slides with you. I don't know that I want to take another stab at the presentation. Were you guys thinking of making a real estate purchase, or what brought you here tonight?
We're already investors.
Oh, okay.
We own property.
In your IRA?
Well, we're looking to do that now.
Okay, great.
So we've loaned money out from my IRA for other projects.
Yeah, that's what I've done too. Yeah. How about you in the back?
A lot of investors who put money into my company's projects use their IRA.
Uh-huh.
And I just want to get a better familiarity with how to communicate with them and what their options are when doing so.
Right, great, okay.
Cool.
Anything else we can share, or any specific questions that you had about it and what they're doing and how they're doing it? Okay.
One final thing I'd like to mention. One of the barriers for some individuals from going the route of using their IRA to purchase real estate is the fact that they feel like it's a tedious process to have us be receiving all the checks and cutting all the checks out, whether it be for a property casualty bill or a tax bill or rent coming in. You can get a checkbook LLC, which is basically a loophole in the IRS code around you not being able to handle the money of your own IRA. You could set up a side account, have a checking account attached to the LLC. Now, instead of the IRA purchasing the property, the IRA is taking ownership over the LLC, which has purchased the property, and now you actually have the ability to write checks in and out of the account. So that is an option for,
I have
yeah?
a question. What does CAMA charge? How does CAMA make money?
Okay, so basically, we have an account establishment fee, and then ongoing, it's an annual custodial fee calculated in one of two ways, either based off of the dollar value of the account. As the dollar value increases, the amount of basis points you're paying goes down, just basically like a marginal scale down. The other way is an asset-based fee. So it's a flat rate currently of $275 per asset per year. So in this scenario, we're talking about houses. If you own one investment property in the IRA, your annual custodial fee is $275 a year. Now there are check writing fees, $10 per check. To receive money, doesn't cost anything. To wire money, I mean, there are other transactional
$10
fees
per check?
that we write out. So that's one of the reasons why people may want to go the route of establishing the LLC, not only for the ease, being able to write the checks, but you're saving that. Now, the thing is, when we're writing the checks, it's all being documented. You really need to be very certain you're doing all your documentation correct. So if you ever happen to have a situation which you get audited, you can show the movement of all the money and that it all makes sense. Whereas if we were doing it for you, it's documented.
Hey.
Oh, sorry, one more thing. If you're buying 3 or 4 properties, we look at that LLC that owns the 4 properties as one asset, not 4 homes. So you're getting charged $275. If you purchase the 4 homes in your IRA without the LLC, we're charging you $275 per asset.
Right. But you're
So-
writing probably on each house somewhere between 5 and 10 checks a month, so it's another $50 to $100.
Not necessarily. I mean,
Well, you got-
it's
you
just
got-
so varied.
Yeah, right.
And a lot of people do, I mean, a lot of our clients,
Do the LLC.
well, or I mean, any kind of property casualty, a lot of the bills they're paying, they opt for the annual
Right.
route. So if it's insurance, they're not paying it monthly.
Right.
Maybe quarterly, a lot semi-annually, the other portion are annuals.
So since you brought up insurance, like Josh here is an insurance broker, do you see any premium like increase because of the structure of this versus lending to an individual or an LLC, or insuring an individual or an LLC?
I know, I really know. As long as it's coming up that, it's not bid on an individual basis, it's an individual.
It's a property. Yeah.
Policy, so, no, the answer is no.
Okay.
Carriers just basically they want to get paid.
Even though there's that potential, it's barrier there from it that it's not owned by the individual and it's owned by the IRA,
No, it's just like an estate owning a piece of property, it's the same thing.
like a
No,
trust.
It's a regular LLC owner.
Okay. Okay. So our lender partner just joined us, and we had questions about non-recourse loans, and this is Bill Rookstool from Approved Mortgage. And we were having questions about if an investor wanted to purchase, say, one of these townhomes with 20% down, taking the 20% out of their IRA, with the mortgage coming in the form of a non-recourse loan, what would that look like in terms of the rate? Oh, yeah. Oh, Bill, we need you over here.
So if they wanted to take the actual down payment out of their IRA,
Yeah.
okay, that would be considered borrowing your own funds. So it's not a cumulative loan to value, which is a CLTV versus LTV. So you're borrowing your own funds really to fund the down payment. So it would just be looked at if you were buying it personally, you could do your own conventional loan, 20% down, you can get a 30-year fixed, or you can do it as you were mentioning with an LLC. When you're doing an LLC, it becomes more of a commercial type transaction, and it depends on how the portfolio underwriter is going to look at the transaction there, but at least conventionally, you should be fine.
What happens to the rate on a non-recourse loan? Is it typically like a half point higher, quarter point?
It's normally maybe even a little bit higher. I mean, when you're dealing with an LLC, your rate's going to be higher, and normally you're going to be dealing with an ARM product. We do have fixed rate products for LLCs as well. We can actually underwrite in some of our programs strictly to cash flow. So we can take all of your income out of the equation if you're just a strict investor, and we have programs that we're going to pass out how it works in the back. We have a flyer for you guys to take, but it really just works off of the cash flow of the property. Doesn't matter if you're a self-employed borrower not claiming any other income anywhere else.
Go ahead.
Good. But just in general, I guess, you know, there's different programs that are available. A Fannie Mae, you know, a conventional standard is you can only do, if you want to do these in your personal name, you can really only do up to 10 properties Fannie Mae. So Fannie Mae mortgages, you can only have up to 10 financed properties. If you're dealing with some portfolio products, so we have a portfolio product, the cash flow product, as I was mentioning, that goes up to 25. You can actually own 25 in your personal name. And when you're dealing with LLCs, entities like that, you can do as many as you'd like.
But there's going to be a premium for the rate.
There is going to be a premium. Yep, there is going to be a premium. And just you know, full disclosure here, I do. This is a particular project. Bill, being the builder, I've worked with Bill in the past here. Bill's actually done 6 new construction rental properties for me in that area and around that area that obviously being new construction with the abatement, they work out very well on the cash flow side of things.
Is everyone familiar with the tax abatement in Philadelphia? Okay.
10 years.
10 years, yeah. Yeah. So it really helps keep your operating costs down for that 10-year period.
Mm-hmm.
And how are you seeing, you know, one of the things I was talking about earlier was the quality of the tenant that you can expect with new construction home versus an older home. If we go back in the slide, the average rent for new construction homes, I think is about $1,875 a month, and you're getting a pretty well qualified income tenant. $1,897 a month is the average rental amount for new construction. Are you seeing that?
Yeah,
number pretty consistent?
yeah, I actually seen even really higher numbers. You know, a couple units are only about 1,400 square feet in their Northern Liberties Fishtown corridor. We're getting about $2,300 a month per unit. Most of our tenants seem to be young professionals. So you seem to get a lot of, you know, we do the 3 bedrooms, similar to this. This is the top floor is a master. Then you have on the bottom floor, you have 2 bedrooms and you have the Jack and Jill bathroom, you know, on the second floor. And it seems like there's a lot of young professionals that are renting together. So, you know, it seems like a higher number to be paying. Those people, if you're paying $2,300 a month in rent, you can afford your own home, but it's a lot of younger professionals that seem to be living together. Seems to be what they do these days.
And are you, when you get the rental applications, I mean, you know, the statistics show that, you know, 40% of these folks are making about 20% are making about 125 a year on average, 40% between 40 and 125. Is that consistent with your experience with the rental applications you're getting?
Yeah, I think that's in the range.
Okay.
I definitely think that's in the range. I mean, obviously, when you get into managing and renting out properties, you want to work with a property management company if you can. It's really easy to set up on your own though as well. Rentec is a really nice source, one that I use, and we manage just in-house properties. You can do your tenant screenings, you can do the credit report, background checks, all online. Disclosures are pretty, you know, if you're talking with the right real estate agent setting it up, you can have all your disclosures done. Then when it comes to managing the properties, you can pretty much do it on your own if you need to, but I would suggest talking to a property management company, especially in Philadelphia, setting up your licenses and things like that to make sure you're doing it the proper way, at least at first.
Mm-hmm. And do any of your units have parking?
No, street parking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any objections? Any difficulty getting tenants placed without it?
No, we've never actually, knock on wood, but we've never had a vacant month, so we've never even had the turnover month of having to wait. It's only just been a couple of days between when parties have actually gotten into the properties. Mm-hmm. So the Philadelphia rental market is very strong right now. Mm-hmm. I don't expect that to be the case, you know, never missing a month going forward, but that just happens to be how it's worked out for the last couple of years.
Yeah, great.
Are you guys using any specific marketing strategy?
No, it's probably just the areas. There's just a lot of young professionals in the area that.
Well, it's all online advertisement. When you get ready to re-rent, you're doing all the. Who do you use?
Well, for the most part, I've done just the private marketing. I listed them in the first when they were new construction. We listed them on the realtor side, and then just private marketing. You know, doing the postlets, Craigslist, and they've moved pretty quickly.
Where are you guys invested right now? Temple? Multifamily stuff or single family?
It's similar. It's we have one property. It's new construction, 2 bi-level apartments. But we're finding that some of the adults don't want to live there, and we don't necessarily want the whole place filled with students. So.
Okay. It's interesting that you're getting a mix of students and non-students.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Is that a recent development, or has it always been that way? Yeah. Pretty recent. Okay. Is it because the Temple's building so much of their own off-campus housing, or is it just because more people are moving into the neighborhood that can afford to rent there that maybe previously didn't? What do you think is the reason?
I think it's a combination of both. The statements that you just made.
Yeah. Okay.
Has it been hard to rent there at all, or they fill up quickly?
It's been difficult.
Really?
Because
depends on when it's marketed.
Yeah, because the more stable adults don't want to live with the students, and then the property became available like while students are still in their semester, so we're being told wait till May.
Right.
Yeah, that's interesting part about the different submarkets in Philadelphia, because student housing is really very cyclical and very precise when you can expect to get it vacant and then get it re-rented. And yeah, you could experience longer vacancies if you miss that window. Yeah, yeah.
One thing you might, and one thing you might want to consider is giving them, whoever takes it for May, maybe giving them an extra month where they can get it early, but you know, then their deposit goes towards that month. So you don't have to, I mean, to get somebody in there, in the student areas, it really is May to May. Because I do housing for a guy in LaSalle, and we finished the buildings in December, and he didn't have anybody move in till May, because he didn't know the buildings were going to be done.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things he did, was kind of gave them an extra opportunity to get in there a month or so early, so they at least paid their deposit and stuff, so he could get the building moving.
Where at the side? You said the side?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember marketing some new construction homes up at Temple for investors, and because they couldn't predict when they would actually sell, they were guaranteeing the buyer the rent that could potentially be lost if they missed the window. So if the buyer bought the place in August and they have to wait till the next May, they were incentivizing buyers to buy by saying, we'll guarantee you 7 months of rent until the next cycle comes around. And they were pretty successful with it. This is back in 08, 09. Obviously, you're not in that position unless you decide to sell the units, but maybe something, if you were continue to acquire up there, to look to try to negotiate with the next seller to make sure that your window's covered. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
Are you primarily involved in Philadelphia submarkets involved in the Northern Liberties area?
Northern Liberties, yeah, I mean, Fishtown, Kensington, really. I do a little bit in the suburbs, Conshohocken previous, but once I got into the Philadelphia market with the abatement, it just didn't make sense in my mind to really invest anywhere else.
But I just mean, yeah, that specific area, like the northeast section there.
Yeah,
Center City.
somewhat. I'm trying to economies of scale type situation where you're trying. I'd like to have them all in a close knit area, just to manage. It makes it a lot easier. So that's how it's worked out for me. Yeah.
Where do you find some of these young professionals are looking? Fishtown, Northern Liberties, Kensington. What other areas would you say they may be interested?
I think Graduate Hospital, Point Breeze is probably some other good areas. I particularly like these areas right now because it still is, I feel like, reasonably priced, and the younger millennials seem to live there, and it's the rents when they're living together, it just seems to be, it's not much of a burden to afford, to cover the rent that we're asking for. A lot of times what I see is, you have 3 guys living together, and instead of the whole house turning over at the end of the lease, you're just releasing one person and you're adding, another friend, and they're staying on the lease longer periods of time. So,
and just to get into that a little bit more, at the beginning of the presentation, I focused on the investment area that we were covering for the purposes of this presentation. So, pretty much anywhere from the northern part of 19148 across Broad Street into New Bolton, Point Breeze, Graduate Hospital, University City, Greater Center, the core of Center City here, and then over into 19130, which you'll see, the neighborhoods are the Fairmount, where the Art Museum is, Francisville, and then back across Broad Street into Callow Hill, which is like the Loft District, 19123, which is Northern Liberties, and then Fishtown, and then Kensington, Old Kensington are starting to develop too. Yeah. And the reason, for these young professionals focusing on these areas, one is a lot of them work in Center City, or they go to school in Center City, but the majority of these areas are really well served by public transportation. And one of the slides showed that 62% of the people that are renting are getting to work without cars. So they want to be close to the Broad Street subway, the Market Frankfurt L, bus lines. Now in Philadelphia, in case you aren't aware, is starting a bike share program, and there's going to be bike share program that's going to be staged throughout the city, and I think that's going to really have the potential to activate some of these areas even more so, because you can actually take a bike, stick it on the front of a bus, and connect to different parts of the city with both forms of transportation. And so I think any of these areas, for the most part, are pretty well suited for to attract young professionals. But wherever there's cafes, shops, bars, restaurants, public transportation, you'll see groupings of them flowing in there, and that's what we're starting to see. With this project in Kensington, a really long time, for the most part, stable neighborhood, and there wasn't a lot of blight. It didn't fall into really hard times. You had homes transition from generation to generation, so for the most part they were kept up. They might have been rented out. But now you see, a mix of people pushing baby carriages and older people that you can tell have lived in the neighborhood for years, walking the streets, at the same time. It's really, you see a lot of the young people wanting to go into these neighborhoods. Newbold is another example of that, where the home stayed in families for generations, but you're starting to see little neighborhood cafes and bars open up to serve the new people, but you still see little old ladies out sweeping their sidewalk. Is your stuff in the city mostly, or outside the city?
We have 2 projects in Center City, a couple under contract north of Center City,
Mm-hmm.
and then we have 2 in the Lower Marion area.
Okay. How do you find that market? Are you doing those for rentals or flips?
All rental.
Okay.
We have both multifamily and student housing. For one, I really like the Temple market.
Mm-hmm.
I think that as private institutions that are of a certain prestige continue to struggle, an affordable, really good education like Temple is going to continue to drive a residential presence, and more people are going to want to live closer to the campus instead of its past, reputation as a commuter campus, and it'll continue to grow there. But yeah, from a rental perspective, it's gone great.
Yeah, I'd love to see Temple get more neighborhood activity going in the way of like shops, a better supermarket, that kind of thing that you see in certain other neighborhoods, restaurants, bars. It's kind of limited still, mostly like Cecil B. Moore Avenue and Broad Street. And I think that's the only thing kind of holding that back from people actually, relocating there, choosing that over Graduate Hospital or the Art Museum area, maybe whether they're a student or faculty member or not, because Temple offers, a program where if people who work or teach at the school buy in that neighborhood, they get a pretty huge bonus for doing so. But not a lot of people have picked up on it.
Is there a reason why they haven't taken advantage of it, in your opinion?
I think just because there's not enough other stuff to do there except go to and from the campus for, say, a young adult that's not a student. If I'm thinking of what am I going to do here after I get home from work, where's the coffee shop, where's the gastro pub, where's the supermarket? I know they have that. They have a movie theater, but just on day-to-day kind of stuff. Where's the dry cleaner? Where's the bank? Where am I going to do all my stuff that I normally do? Where are you going to pick up? Okay. Any other comments before we wrap it up? And then we can certainly talk more offline. And if you guys want to leave your info, I can email you these slides too.
Yeah, that was my next question.
Sure. Okay.
I have a question.
Sure.
We have some shelves that are located in between Temple and Temple Hospital, and there's this new development called Liberty Square. Do you know anything about that area around Broad and Lehigh, near North Philadelphia train station? Anybody?
I do not. No.
Okay.
No. Okay. Well, thank you guys all for coming. Again, I'm Larry Levin with Coldwell Banker Preferred and LiveLovePhilly.com. This is Bill Rookstool with Approved Mortgage. That's Mike Debato from Camaplan. And this is Bill Lappin from Green Tree Construction. So we'll stick around, answer any more questions, have something to eat, drink, and thanks.